We already covered some practices for successful pairing. Now we're gonna expand that knowledge about pairing and look at some posts influenced by the tool in their shape or form. Going back to the form-based classification from the first chapter, let's quickly summarize the characteristics of a form classification. A dynamic type form, or referred sometimes as old style, some characteristics are thick serif and low contrast between thin and thick strokes. The stress is angled because it was made with slanted pen, the pen that is angled. The next one is transitional, that has a thinner serif and a little bit higher contrast between thin and thick strokes. Stress is vertical or sometimes slightly angled to the left. That's why called transitional. And this last one is static, with very thin serif, often horizontal, and high or even extreme contrast between thin and thick strokes. The goal of this strategy is to pair a dynamic form typefaces with other dynamic form typefaces. We already covered some practices for successful pairing. Now we're gonna expand that knowledge about pairing and look at some possible strategies worth considering when you are searching for that perfect pair. Developing a typographic taste is hard work. It takes time and a lot of practice. And it's heavily leaned on intuition, taste, and a bit of experience. Nevertheless, these strategies should give you a better understanding of your possibilities when it comes to pairing typefaces. These are 4 different approaches or strategies to take when we pair typefaces. It's how I name them for better remembering. Let's start with familiar. We already covered that it's a good practice to use one family, twin, or a superfamily because they have a same foundation in letter construction. On a similar idea, we are expanding the family, in a way. Familiar strategy relies on pairing typefaces from the same type designer. Creating a typeface is a hard work, and type designers are developing a specific aesthetic, and they have a particular approach in designing their typefaces. They are building on a particular direction or a vision, which is seen in their work across all of the typefaces they have created. Also, combining typefaces from the same time foundry is a good strategy to achieve a common aesthetic. Type foundries are same as people in a studio or agency working on the same project. Everyone is different, but still they have the same goal and a common vision. Type foundries are a group of people with the same vision when it comes to designing typefaces. Let's check some examples of that strategy applied. Here we have Monument Extended and Woodland from Penguin Program Type Foundry working together on a project. Mixo Navarra from Velveteen Type Foundry. There's a particular aesthetic seen in their work. And the Klim Type Foundry example, where we have Domain Display, Domain Text, Founders Grotesque working together. The next strategy is similarity. Look for typefaces that have similarities in their construction. Typefaces with similar proportions or anatomy can pair very good. The goal is to find similarities in construction, but still they have to have their differences in style or character, something that would spark an interest. Start by looking at similarities at X height of the same size typefaces. Both of these are set at the same size. This example is no good. The heights are quite different. This is a much better example. The idea is to get as close as possible. In this example, we see a significant difference in height of the letters at the same size, the cap height. Much better example is with Canela, that is almost the same height as Futura cap height letter. check letter proportion. Take a look at the set width of a typeface you are considering as a pair. A set width is the comparable width of a specific letters. Some letters can be wider, others less wide. The width of every letter is designed in a relation to every other letter in the character set. Typefaces that have similar widths tend to get along visually. Other common similarities that you can search for are single story or double story letter A and G. These two are completely different. The first one is Georgia and has a double story A and the double story G compared to the second Futura. This example, not perfect but better. The goal is to have it similar but different in style. Let's check some project examples, how they work together. Here we have Futura and Schneider, Accurat and GT Sectra, and GT America and Canela, working pretty well together. The next strategy has something to do with personality. Every typeface has a personality and a voice. It has some visual characteristics that help to define a mood, a visual message that wants to be communicated. Your goal is to have typefaces who are sending the same vibe, that communicate the same feeling, like they are part of some cult or a specific group of people. Whatever that tone is, it needs to work together and sound as a group, without canceling each other or pulling in opposite directions. Try to avoid using completely opposing personalities. Try not to pair two typefaces that have different personality. When they both have strong opposing styles, they are fighting for attention. Some typefaces just need a room to express themselves visually. It's similar like with people. When the big personalities get together, they will both fight to be in the center of attention. Things could become awkward quite soon. Here are some examples of typefaces working together and having the same vibe and transmitting the same message across. Another example of a completely different vibe. There are a lot of typefaces combined here, but they all speak the same language. Beautifully balanced and with same tone. A more edgy aesthetic with Lemmemoor, Eurostyle and Druk White. Really lovely combination. And the last strategy is using the typeface's form to match a good pair. Some of the typefaces are designed using a pen, some of them using a brush, others influenced by the tool in their shape or form. Going back to the form-based classification from the first chapter, let's quickly summarize the characteristics of a form classification. A dynamic type form, or referred sometimes as old style, some characteristics are thick serif and low contrast between thin and thick strokes. The stress is angled because it was made with slanted pen, the pen that is angled. The next one is transitional, that has a thinner serif and a little bit higher contrast between thin and thick strokes. Stress is vertical or sometimes slightly angled to the left. That's why I call transitional. And this last one is static, with very thin serif, often horizontal, and high or even extreme contrast between thin and thick strokes. The goal of this strategy is to pair a dynamic form typefaces with other dynamic form typefaces. If the paired typefaces in that couple are from different main categories like dynamic serif and dynamic sans, pairing will be even better because of the stylistic contrast, similar but different. Let's go over a few project examples. Helvetius and GT Sectra, PF Isotex and NB Architect, and Financier Display and Metric.